Hello and welcome to UiPath Essentials Training, Data Manipulation. In this episode, we'll learn some basics about working with data in RPA projects. Hopefully, you're already familiar with control flow and variables from the previous chapter. Data handled with UiPath comes in many flavors, or types, as we'd rather call them, as most often it will be either text, numbers, dates and times, lists, or tables. Data of all kinds is stored in variables and used in visual basic expressions to configure activities. All activity properties have predefined types and expect expression values accordingly. Types are visible on dedicated tooltips when hovered with the mouse. A type into activity, for example, has properties of different types, like continue on error, requiring a Boolean value, delays, expecting integers, and text, accepting a string. Fortunately, we don't have to know such information for all properties. If we're using the context menu to add a new variable to a property, or pressing Ctrl and K, the variable is automatically created with the appropriate type. In this case, a string variable has been created. Most of the variables used with UiPath will fit into one of the following categories. Scalar variables, holding a single value of a fixed type, for example, characters, booleans, numbers, and date times. Collections, like arrays, lists, and queues. A particular case in this category is the string data type. As text is basically a sequence of characters, we may understand string as an extended type of a simple collection. Another special case is the dictionary structure. Dictionaries work like two synchronized collections of associated names and values that allow a value to be referenced by its name rather than its index. Dictionaries are used to pull data from orchestrator queues. The last category, tables. Tables are two-dimensional structures that hold data indexed by rows and columns. A table is similar to an array of dictionaries, where values are accessible by row index and column names. The generic value is a special type, entirely unique to UiPath, designed to simplify the use of basic activities. It can represent basic types of data, including text, numbers, and date or times. Using generic value is convenient, as the developers don't need to know or care about the type of data they're dealing with. Generic value variables support various string methods like trim, substring, contains, and many others. We may often find the necessity to cast a generic value to a more specific type, using methods such as toString and toInt. Arrays and lists in UiPath are very similar entities. The main difference is that an array has a fixed size, while the list can be lengthened or shortened by adding or removing elements. To define an array variable, we need to pick the array data type and then specify element's type. Optionally, we can give it a default value as a comma-separated sequence of items enclosed in braces. To define a list variable, we'll browse for the generic .list type and then pick the required content type. To initialize the new variable to an empty list, we'll set the default value to a new list, stating again the element's type in the declaration. We can optionally provide some content to the new list by using an initialization array, like this. Both lists and arrays may be iterated using a for each activity. We need to select the correct item type here. Let's use a log message activity. And run the workflow to see the elements in the array. Check the output pane, and here they are. Now we'll change the loop to go through the list. No difference from array here, but a list has appropriate methods to add and to remove elements. To add a new element in the list, we need to use the invoke method activity that requires the list object, the method name, and the new element specified in the parameters property. Careful that element type should match the list definition. Now, if we run this again, we'll notice that there's a third value in the output pane, the one that we just added. Dictionaries are generally useful when working with orchestrator queues, but they can also be used to hold multiple values in a single variable. For example, to reduce the number of arguments when passing data between workflows. To define a dictionary, we will browse for the appropriate type. The key type and value type need to be selected. Usually the key is a string and the value is either a string or the more general object. To initialize it with values, we need to provide the dictionary constructor with an array of key or value pairs like this one. For adding data to a dictionary, a simple assign will do. The key name specified to the left, new value to the right. And that was all. In this lesson, we learned how to store and manipulate data in UiPath using variables, which are used to configure every Studio activity. We proceeded by defining all the variable types according to their values. We also looked at some activities that facilitate variable management. The next lesson deals with data sources and extraction. See you then.